Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results.
So stressful when the world's on fire. Good God. I can't look at this, guys. Like, my strategy is you buy it and you hope that you got a good spot. Yeah, but we all think you're crazy. You don't fight this. No way. The markets are freaking out and you don't think that anything is wrong? Come back tomorrow and I'll lose it all. Should be fun.
Good morning, everybody. Thursday, the 16th. Got a couple of good numbers coming in here, including Philadelphia Fed Manufacturing Index and continuing job claims. So let's just go into the charts here really quick. I will start the text to speech. I hope it doesn't read those things that you... Well, actually, it was only... Kate won't do it for Caleb. You're not on the list yet. Sorry, bud. But I'm kind of letting this one run for a few weeks, and then we'll change it a little bit so that everybody can do it. So the charts. S&P 500 really great yesterday. At some points quite excessive, to be honest. And now in the overnight session, a little bit of pullback. The overnight action in emerging markets and so forth did not take the reins and try and continue it up. They're still kind of feeling bearish. Now, on the flip side here in the treasuries took a little bit of a move down. I think it was really that the New York manufacturing data was just so crazy high, and that really pushed the treasuries down almost as much as they moved up over here. So we shall see what they are, just a tad bit lower. They're kind of at the lower end of the range. We'll see if they go. It's going to very much depend on the data here, right? But we do look to be in an environment where treasury volatility is somewhat high, and so regardless of which way the news goes, we can probably get a pretty good move. Oil moving up, but yesterday, but apparently China is going to be releasing more reserves, so that could hurt them. Gas finally getting a little bit of a pullback there. Again, natural gas, a big concern over in Europe and something that we're going to have to start monitoring more. Gold's taking a bit of a dip here. I guess it's not that bad, but it kind of looks like from what gold is telling us, gold and silver kind of is telling us that no, they really are going to taper and everything else like that. Like the rates are going to rise. Here's copper. Copper also, Chinese releasing some copper, and that's really affecting them in copper today. Currency wise, you can see the dollar. Oh wait, what's wrong here? Hate it when it does that. Okay, dollar looking pretty strong this morning. The euro bears are just getting, euro bears are just having a hell of a time over there. That's what I meant to say. Come on, stop doing that. Why can't I? That's annoying. Anyways, Bitcoin was is on the upturn again. Is just kind of floating higher off of nothing. So you can't keep the Bitcoin down. Apparently, you can't keep the Bitcoin down. Did I fix everything? I feel like I kind of screwed my workspace up there a little bit. So, no, we won't turn the robot on yet. Mano says, yes, the treasuries were pushed down. That pushed the SPUs up and Dixie down. What is your view of the flattening yield curve? Certain quant algos are allocating based on flattening yield curve, but honestly, it's uncertain.
Good morning at Caleb.
Oh, there we go. Now it pulls up. So it does read it right away. That's interesting. Okay. Let's make sure we got that going on. So yeah, the thing that I'm seeing right now, the yield curve is not behaving the way that I would normally expect it to, right? Like what you want to see happening is a flatter curve, right? You want to see as the short-term rates rise, and of course all of the rates will rise, but the short-term ones will rise more, right? But that's not what's happening. What's happening instead is the 30-year is just getting swung either way that it goes. So if we're going up, then the 30-year swings up and moves up more. And if we're going down, then the 30-year swings down and goes more. And initially, when we had that big move last week, it kind of went up and then it flattened. So I think that if you were a quant making your allocations based on the yield curve, I think that it would maybe give you some bad signals right now, because I don't think that the yield curve is necessarily trying to tell you things specifically about the future path of interest rates as much as it is the 30-year just swinging out there wildly, right? But it probably will stabilize after the next Fed meeting, right? Then I think we'll actually get something really useful. But at the same time, there's probably going to have to be some steepening at first, because those 30s are just really low. Like the 30-year being below 2% is just like really crazy, right? So the 30-year will have to come up a lot more, and you will get some steepening at first. But then once we get back into more of a regular recovery, then we should get flattening. And it should be flattening for a really, really long time, right? Yeah, the 30-year is always more volatile, but most play at the belly of the curve. Yeah. I don't really have a good way of looking at the convexity of it either. But it does seem to me that the convexity, like the kink that you're getting in the 10-year right now, is way bigger than it normally is, right? Like there is really just a lot more activity in the 10-year compared to the rest of the curve right now. And frankly, not that much movement on the 5-year end of the curve. So, embattled developer China Evergrande Group as regulatory scrutiny into risks from this type of token grow. Oh, no, you're talking about Tether, the world's largest stablecoin, says it does not hold any commercial paper or securities issued by Evergrande. Yes, but they continue to refuse to say where their commercial paper comes from and whether or not it is from China. They've only said that it's not Evergrande. So they're kind of not out of the woods. I think that here's my bet on Tether with that, is my bet is that the people that they have commercial paper with would get in trouble if China knew. That's what I think. Ayo, good morning. Okay, so for the news here, the Philadelphia Fed Manufacturing Index, we expect to be 18.8. And the initial jobless claims, we're expecting 330. So I do think we could have some major volatility off of these numbers, especially if the Philadelphia Fed Manufacturing Index came in like, 25, 35, like the New York one did yesterday. If that comes in, then these rates are just going to blow out here, Oh, wow, a bunch of comments last night. I should, Lucas. Could you make a video about the inelastic market hypothesis and your thoughts on it? I should. I have some TikToks on it. I will comment to him on that one really quick. You refinanced to invest in stocks and cryptos? So you took some money out when you refinanced? Okay, here we go. They're pulling. I'm noticing that the robots get it closer and closer these days. Like, it used to be like a full minute. Most of them would pull. Some big events like 5 minutes, but now it's like only the 10 seconds. Okay, here we go. Oh my. Okay, so the US Philly Fed Business Index was 30.7. Okay, and let's see here. Continued load. No. Initial jobless claims 332. So slightly higher than expected, but not a huge deal. Yeah, this is I don't know how much the S&P 500 will react to this, but I think that there's a pretty good reason for the treasuries to move quite a bit here. In fact, maybe back to 133 even. Yesterday's top was completing a bearish pattern. Block buy, huh? Probably some profit taking right there. Let's see here. Dollar's getting stronger, it appears, and gold moving down, Japanese yen moving down, and oil kind of turning up at the moment. Yeah, that oil move does look like that's related to this as well. So it looks like risk on across the board. Well, I had to fight to get that position, and I'm not particularly happy with where I got my fill. I'd love one spot 3-3. Well, that's where we're at right now, but I think we should be getting back into the one spot 3-5 maybe. I don't know. It's better to look at the treasuries, right? And it's that one spot 3-3 area even where kind of the bullish move started. 133 spot 040 is kind of like the bottom of the most recent range. So there's probably another little move lower, and they're going to test that, I would think. But I think it's very likely that they'll test that. Yeah. Uzi Short, haven't seen him yet. I hope he has. Although that was, I mean, it really was kind of, I don't know. This one was not quite the same as like yesterday's or the days before, was it? Was a little bit less room to get in on that one. But I think both the New York Manufacturing Index and the Philly Fed Manufacturing Index, both being in the 30s, is really extremely positive. So on the taper, I was looking at the taper and I was like, well, because of coronavirus Delta variant related slowness, maybe they have to push things back because of like the combination of everything. But if you see manufacturing index activity picking back up as strongly as it is, that kind of suggests that the Delta variant was just a very temporary, very, very temporary thing, and that they should be concerned about this roaring back really, really hard. So I think that it's probably very likely now that the Federal Reserve will go through with the tapering, or at least make mention of it. Any of you lads? Well, I mean, we use it. I have a few issues with volume profile. It's not that the volume profile isn't useful. I think that we need to have a renaissance in volume profile. There are certain things that you will see in the volume profile that will really throw you off. And there are certain theories about that people use for volume profile that seem to be contradicted by more recent evidence. You use market profile to see if there's gaps, and they return to fill the blanks. Yeah, so the one that really drives me crazy with the volume profile is that they say, we're likely to return to the previous day's point of control. And the issue with that is that, especially in the S&P 500, the point of control is likely to be just where we closed at the day, right? So if you're getting all of this volume because that's just where price happened to end the day at, does it really have the significance that people try to place on it? I don't think so. But there's certainly things that, the volume profile can kind of tell you about the liquidity with a more, especially if you're watching it as it happens. If you're watching it as it happens, that's where I'm saying, there needs to be a revolution in the volume profile to, create tools that kind of help us adjust for those things on its own. Or you can just watch them as they form here on the DOM, which is how I use it more. Okay, so 04 was 04 to 02. So 04 was kind of like a target area where I thought that there might be some major collisions. It does look like they traded a little bit more there at that location when they traded through it. 15,000 traded there. And then we pushed further and we snapping back to it. So that kind of suggests that we created a hole at 04. So what we might see in a situation like this, because I really don't see this reversing, what we might see is we daddle around here for a while and later move on down further. Example, NQ volume profile delta shows value are low and market seems like it wants to bounce off it to test the point of control. Let's see if that happens. Well, I think that this... So let's talk about yesterday's bullish movement. What do we have going on, right? Well, New York manufacturing index was positive. That helped them. Also, Microsoft did a huge share buyback, and that helped them a lot too. But when I was watching the tape, I was starting to get the excessive moves kind of stuff again, right? So I kind of think that the buy the dip, bunch of people buying out of the money options kind of stuff was coming into play yesterday as well. So as long as we're not getting data that really puts the kibosh on everything, I think that I would want to be long the S&P 500 as well. I'm not going to mess with it because I should be focused over here, but let us check. What is tomorrow's data? Oh, I forgot. Retail sales was spot 7 versus expected negative spot 7. That's pretty good too. So the only thing that we have tomorrow is consumer sentiment, which in this particular situation, I'm not sure is as relevant because we're getting a lot of positive economic data this week that it probably isn't going to be reflected in consumer sentiment. Maybe it will, because it must say the consumer sentiment numbers are almost certainly going to come in and say that people are not as bearish as they were last month. Should I have put in a second contract up in there? I tried to hit, somebody put a one sell order out, and I tried to hit them, but I missed. And almost, to catch those, I would almost have to make a robot that says, if there's only one offer on the bid, on the offer, hit them. You know? But we could do that. We could write that. It would be fun. Oh, we should turn on our robot. We should be careful with him, though, because we don't want him to go short. Samanyo Sud, good morning. Hey, how are you? That name seems new to me. No, you were here a few days ago. Is that it? Okay. I'm not sure what Caleb is trying to say. Oh, that's right. You're the thumbnail guy. Oh, yes. That's right. He did some thumbnails for us. You know, though, I when I'm looking at that one, I mean, they did okay. I don't know if they made a huge difference. Like from going through that experience, it seems to me that your thumbnails were very good, but that thumbnails aren't my problem. Could be wrong. Which was the one that we changed? It was this earn to trade one.
Block sell.
Oy. Hard move. So you can see the video performance here. Views. Let's go through impressions click-through rate. Didn't see, it's just kind of random. So I think that probably the case is maybe if I was a larger channel, I would be able to look and see that when I changed the thumbnail, the video was doing better. Or maybe if it was just a more popular video. But as it stands now, that the audience that clicks on this is so small. I think that that's my biggest problem. But if I have your Discord, so if I have another video where I feel like I don't have a good thumbnail, and I need it, then I will definitely reach out to you. The Gary Norton one did well. That one had the thumbnail from the beginning, so. So where was that Plax? Okay, 03. Yeah, okay, 46,000 at 03. This is where I wish that I had been able to get this to 2 contracts. I would take one off right here and try and pick up a little bit lower. But let's wait. Maybe if it comes back a little bit, we can take it. What else do we have next week besides the Fed meeting? So next week, building permits and housing starts. Bloomberg TV was talking about the rumors that Powell won't taper until he's reselected for Fed chair this November. Yeah, consumer sentiment is lagging anyways. That's exactly what I was thinking. How much of a statistical difference to catch runners between a fixed stop versus a break-even stop? So every time, if you take a trade and you have a stop and a target, every time that you move your stop up, I mean, if you're long, let's say that you're wrong, like every time that you catch favorable excursion and you move your stop in the direction of the movement up, then you're reducing your probability and your max or your average win number, right? What do your bots do? Cross asset execution or just execution? Well, so the one that I'm testing right now, J, is basically looking for a statistical aberration in the order flow that suggests informed trading of sorts. It's actually different from that. It's something that can indicate informed trading, but often just indicates that the market has gone too far. So it's kind of a little bit of a reversal signal. But he's just reading order flow. So I've kind of had some problems because the things that I really want to test that are multi-asset is the yield curve. Is the yield curve, and or don't have really enough data to really test it with yet, right? I don't, at least. The data exists, but I don't have access to it. Wouldn't your entry also affect the statistic if you nailed the bottom, for example? Well, so I would think about it as like, okay, let's just first assume that your entry was random, right? If your entry was random, then anytime that you move your stop up, that makes your stop more likely to be hit, right? So just all other things being equal, moving your stop makes it more likely to get hit, period. Okay? And that changes things. and not necessarily in your favor, right? But there is a situation where things have flipped around and you do want to move your stop up, because if you don't, it's going to go much lower and you're going to give up even more profits, right? So you would have to have a really, really strong signal that it's going to come back for that to make sense. You get what I mean? Like, if you're moving your stop up to lock in profits, what signal are you using to move it up? If it's something that, 52% of the time it would have been a winner if that was like your entry sort of a thing, then are you really giving yourself much more edge from doing that? Especially when you consider that most retail trading strategies are really more about taking on risk than they are about having a predictive signal. You get what I mean? So then, all of those properties are going to apply to when you take your entry, right? But there's some other things about judging your entries and exits, right? One thing is, what is the probability that it goes in your direction, right? So do I have a signal that effectively says it's going to go straight to my target or whatever the deal is, right? So the shorter your trades are, the higher your win rate. And then the way that I really look at it is lower average adverse excursion, right? The lower your adverse excursion is, the better your entry was, right? The other side of it is, when you do win, are you catching more? Are you catching something that really trended, essentially? Like, what is the chances that it trends, right? Those are the two sides to your entry. So with J, it looks like with the signal that I have found here, it has a slight probability advantage. That is to say that you get blah, 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 blah. You're going to get about 52% on an equal risk reward, but they do have a tendency to move further. They have a tendency to move about twice as far as my target. And if I put my stop, if I give myself a wide stop, I think it was a 24 tick stop is what he's running at right now. Oh, wait, did I change it? Stop. No, 24. He's running a 24 tick stop right now. Okay. Having the 24 tick stop really improves his win rate. So normally I move my stops when it has moved 6 points to my advantage. Yeah. But that's the thing is, okay, so here was the larger point that I was trying to get to, and I kind of I kind of let myself get lost in the weeds. If you're doing something like this trade worked and it went X ticks in my favor, and so because it went X ticks in my favor, I moved my stop up, you should realize that act of moving its stop up, the market doesn't care how much money you made off of it. It has absolutely no predictive value as to the future movement of the stop of the trade. So you should realize that when you move your stop up just based off of how much money you've made, that all you're doing is reducing your probability and your maximum winner. That doesn't mean that there's not reasons to do it. It could depend on the signal. I think that moving your stop up makes a lot more sense in a trade that is really fast and momentum based. If the signal that you're taking is something where the market is going to be moving really, really fast, then that's a good kind of situation to run a trailing stop, because as soon as you get a certain amount of pullback, then the trade is over anyways. Would you give up 100% maximum favorable excursion over, say, double the move? Well, that's the whole thing is so when I was back testing J yesterday, for instance, equal risk reward and everything else, right? 52%. I let it go twice as far. So risk reward of 2. And I have a specific exit signal, by the way, in this one. So he tends to let it go until he gets the exit, which can result in some pretty big winners. So the average win is twice the average loser. Okay. But if I change him to move to break even after a certain amount of favorable excursion, All it did was reduce the win rate, reduce the favorable the average profit, so on and so forth. Like it reduced the profitability of the system, because moving it to break even off of like a certain thing doesn't help you. Right. Now, maybe if I was moving it to break even based off of some specific signal that I was seeing, that might be different, right? But the split side of that is that moving to break even, it might reduce your profits and your win rate and everything, but it may improve the consistency of the system. You might get a better Sharpe ratio with that, right? Trailing stops is a really interesting situation, because I've tried a bunch of them, and I've seen there's another guy on YouTube that does a lot of backtesting sort of stuff, and he's done the same thing. He tested like as many different kind of trailing stops as he could find, and his result was that set targets always did better. What about splitting the trade into two at this point? You mean like taking sequential profits or something? Is it Kevin Davey? I don't remember. He's an older guy. But I don't know. I felt like that he didn't have a very sophisticated analysis of the actual stuff that he was writing. Like it seemed like one of these guys that this is why I don't want to use names, but I also don't remember who it was. But something that I see a lot in algorithmic trading is that somebody will come in and they'll have an algorithm that does make money, but like when you look at the Sharpe ratio of this strategy, it's awful. And they would be better just buy and hold. That's kind of the point to that. If your Sharpe ratio is below 0.5, you might as well just be buy and hold. Okay, so Jay did take his trade and went short here. I don't think that will end up too well for him, but this is what I'm saying. The thing that's interesting about the signal with Jay is that it's either how do I put this? When he gets his signal, it's either that they have just gone too far and the market is all on one side and they're going to have to take profits and come back, or it's a strong trend and a strong indication of informed trading and it's going to continue. And it just so happens that the number of times that it is an informed trade is quite low. So the trade works. Is how I think. So I would like to try and add some filters, which I think might have to involve just like straight numbers or something like that, to say, okay, you don't do that if the last trend was this much volume or something like that. But we'll see. We'll see how he does here. I mean, trail the first trade, then when it comes back, enter another trade would logically, okay. So I think that that's not a bad idea, which is that if you think there's going to be a pullback, I mean, here's the thing. In that situation, you have a reason to think that it's going to stop and pull back. And when it pulls back, you have a reason to think that it's going to turn back higher at that point, right? But having like two contracts or whatever increases the amount of risk, and that might be too much for you. So a really great way to do it is to just split it up into two trades, to say, I will take a profit at 134, one spot 345. I'll take the profit there, wait for it to come back maybe to this one spot 338 area, and buy again. And that way I'm able to take advantage of that movement without increasing my risk. Yeah, that's a great way of doing it. The risk that you introduce when you do that is you might not get the fill where you want and so forth, right? Like, what if it comes back and you're just not able to get a fill there? Or what if it's wrong? Well, if it's wrong, I guess. Kevin Davey does a lot of backtesting with stops, trailing stops, stop and reverse. He is a champion. His books are popular on Amazon. Yeah. And maybe it probably is him. And that specific video, it was stop and reverse and set targets that were better than every kind of trailing indicator that they had. But you know what? It makes sense, because if pretty much everything that you're seeing with price is noise, then any kind of trailing stop that you would set up based off of price is also just going to be noise too. Right? Well, we're not back to 133 yet. I suspect that we will see 133 today, but we'll see. You know, that's where I get, like, I really would like to see better ways of managing the positions. But maybe I already have the answer. Maybe the answer is that it only makes sense to manage your position when you have a signal with a probability of doing a certain thing. And then what you can do is you can just say, if you're already in a position, then you do something based off of that, right? Take multiple contracts, and when you get this other signal, you reduce your size or something like that. Well, I tell you what, right now it looks like they're pretty stuck at the 0303 half, but when they come down to the bottom, in the 10-year at least, it sure pulls. It sure looks like they could just fall through that so easily. For the moment, they're not quite doing it. I was thinking about this trade, like the thing that I would really like is to be able to hold this to the Fed meeting. If I had enough profit built into it, that it would be easy for me to hold it through the Fed meeting. And well, we've got two pieces of news. We got consumer sentiment tomorrow, and then Tuesday, I think it is, we've got housing numbers. But then there's also the weekend, which is an event in and of itself. So from a risk management perspective, does it make sense for me to try and hold this over the weekend? Or do I try and let this run and take profits at the end of the day on Friday and then pick it back up again on Sunday? Like, is it really going to move that much over the weekend? I don't necessarily see why it would. In fact, it's probably the case that the majority of the bearish movement is going to happen today and tomorrow, and then it will just be really quiet until the FOMC. Okay, so Jay caught his short and took his profits. I posted it in the equity. Here, let me show you the stats for it. Where is it? There it is. See, so when you look at those stats, is there really an edge to it? This is the equal risk reward one, I think. They're actually winners make slightly more than the losers, but not on the shorts. So for some reason, it doesn't work very well on shorts. Well, not for some reason. I mean, this market has been really bullish in the time frame. So like, is this really a good strategy, or is it just the results of a bullish market? I mean, I kind of suspect that it's just the results of a bullish market, but is your bearish? I'm not doing a bearish thesis. I think that the E-mini should continue to go higher into options expiration. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and say that I think that we will end the week above 4,500. That's where the options kind of suggest that it should go. Right? Forex Live tweets, August retail sales are likely just the beginning of the resurgence of the U.S. consumer. Good. Everything. I'm maybe being a little too rosy here, yeah? I don't know. Like in my mind, everything just looks really good. Like the S&P, like this pullback, we could say, in the equity market should be done, and they should turn bullish again, and rates are going to rise substantially from here. And it's just like everything just looks good. And all of this middling around that we've had the past week or so, who will just go away. I don't know. But am I being too rosy? Am I expecting too much? I just don't trust myself, do I? No, I think that was that manufacturing debt, both of them to be almost double what was expected, and in the 30s, because in the 30s it's really high. In the 30s is really high. Trapzak tweets, it's nominals leading the move too, with the 5-year inflation break even fully reversed now. Okay, so was something that we were seeing was that the break evens were kind of showing something that didn't make much sense, and that they were basically saying that like the rates would have to rise substantially for it to make sense to buy the break evens. And so there's a kind of question about whether the break evens would come back or if everything else would come to meet them. And it looks like that what is happening is that the break evens are coming back. Option expiration dynamics, Vanna and Charm gives a window of non-strength, not weakness, especially for tomorrow. I'm not sure what you mean by Vanna and Charm. Vanna is the rate at which the delta and vega of an options or warrant contract will change as the volatility and price of the underlying market change. I've never heard those terms before. second order derivative of an option's value once the time and once the delta is also the derivative of theta, which measures the time decay. I see what you're saying. You're saying that it's so close to the expiration that some of these numbers are going to kind of be like really off.
Block cell.
Well, what I'm saying is that the gamma levels suggest that the S&P 500 will want to move above 4,500. That was pretty aggressive, a little extension there, wasn't it? I wonder if there was stops in that one. Otherwise, why would you have? Well, maybe not. I don't know. I'm sitting here thinking, why would you be willing? Who would be willing to buy 4,000 contracts at each of these prices? And then they just decided to plow right through them. I mean, some of it could be profit taking, but I don't think that completely makes sense given my metrics. My metrics kind of suggest that there's not many people left to stop out. So that must be maybe somebody trying to take an alternative trade. I don't know. That it looks like they're getting steamrolled. Well, they touched 133 even, so I don't know if that, that might kind of they might just chill, but who are our natural competitors? Hedge funds, insider traders, quant firms diversify. Who competes with day traders? Everybody. Everybody is a competition to some degree, right? But then you can get more specific and you can say, given my strategy, who are my competitors? Like for you, because you're trying to trade really, really fast and everything, probably your competitors are the HFTs, which I personally kind of try to avoid because I don't think it's a fair fight. But in NQ, you might be able to, there might be enough inefficiency there in NQ to pull it off. My stomach is all equalizing here, I think. Okay. By the way, as we've had this move, it does look like the yield curve has been steepening across the board. Basically everywhere except for the 30 and 10. So the 30 and 10 are swinging up a lot more, but the overall yield, I mean, look at how much the 5-year went, right? This is the move that I've been waiting for. I'm a little mad because I'm not making as much on it as I wanted. I wanted, for a move like this, I wanted to be making more like 50, 60. That's why I wanted to do contracts. And I missed the other contract. I guess I could have continued to do it anywhere in here because I could have just hit at 3,300, right? Should I have been more aggressive? That would have been really aggressive from me. And I've been having a bit of a tough time. I've had a couple of trades get away from me and stuff, so it probably makes sense to just be take it slow a little bit first. Yeah, my trades in the micros have all been real. Not the ES. That's all sim, but okay, so it is in fact reverting a bit here as they touched 133 even. The key is knowing when to get out of the trade in those that know that make millions. I don't know. Like, here's the thing that I think is kind of funky is on a short-term basis, I can usually nail it pretty good in the treasury. Like, this is, I mean, it's already a little bit too late, but when you see those big collisions, you just kind of have to think, okay, what the 10-year will tend to do is they'll tend to have a little bit of an extension and then they'll snap back. Because what happens is, like, whatever that Matador is doing, they still want to extend their stuff, but you just should know. So it's right there at 01, I guess. At 01, there is a little bit of a hole, right? So probability is maybe we extend the range a little bit and then we'll snap back a little bit, and then we'll equalize, and then maybe when the E-mini starts again, they'll move lower. Right. But that's the whole thing, is like, maybe they'll move lower. It's totally worth it if it's like really a good trend and it's a macro trade. Like for the way that I'm trading it, I'm doing macro news trading, you know? Doesn't it make sense to try and hold it until the macro factor is no longer a thing? You know what I mean? Instead of just the one leg of the scalp. Yeah, it does. But then what often happens to me when I do that is I overstay my welcome and something comes and changes it and I don't realize it and I lose it. So hopefully that doesn't happen to us this time. I'm trying. That's why I was thinking about, okay, like, what are the pieces of news and everything? What's the big event? The big event is FOMC. So theoretically, I could hold this until FOMC, but it may not be worth it to hold it past tomorrow. It may not be worth it to hold it past today. It may be worth it to just kind of try and let this go until it equalizes today and take it off there. It's a little bit too early for it to equalize, so we still got the S&P 500 to open. Goldman follows Cathie Wood's arc with a new tech-focused active ETF. Cool. What is this? Good morning, cuties. Is that what we're calling NASDAQ traders now? Cuties? Or is he saying something else? Because this guy's name is Infowars, which seems silly. That's in the Discord. Good morning, Ace. Missed you yesterday. Make sure you use a $sign in front of your message for the ones you want us to read out. I think we should start calling NASDAQ traders cuties. NASDAQ trader could just change his name now. We are silly in the Discord, but never here. No. Yeah, well, you know what? So this is the thing that's so dumb about that, Dala, is that the way that I've always run it is you can do whatever you want on YouTube, like, because really sometimes you can get, or at least we've had times where a lot of people are in here and it's hard to follow, and I want you guys to just have fun on YouTube because, you know, there's only so much I can do for you, right? Like I can teach things that I know to be verifiable market behavior and that I know to be helpful, but that's not going to guarantee that you can make money, right? And at that point, the most useful thing that we can do is just provide a community and support, right? Because that's one of the most difficult things about day trading is, like, you're all on your own, and everywhere that you go, everybody just has no clue. So to have a community where I'm able to kind of guide the discussion to some extent and to keep us on the right track on things, and then entertainment, right? Entertainment. And so it was always like the more serious stuff was for Discord. But then what happened is in that equity indexes channel, a couple of the new guys have started posting a lot of macro images and stuff like that. So Discord has become a more silly place than YouTube has. At least the equity indexes channel. Interest rates is still pretty serious. Which I don't post so much on the equity. Sometimes I'm like, oh, I haven't posted like all day. I hope that people don't feel like I'm abandoning the Discord or anything. You can advantageously look at the volume on the major act, the COT report. Like I'm really not a fan of the COT reports. I mean, like I'm not saying like they shouldn't exist or anything like that. It's just that there's not really a whole lot of edge that you can pull out of them, because you should never be surprised by what you see in the COT report. If you're sitting here watching the tape every day, should never be surprised by what we see in the COT report. We may all end up in the Bahamas this one was good, but let's remember that a week ago we had some equally bad trades. So I lost a lot that week. Was it last week? Yeah, it was last week. I lost quite a bit off of those auctions. Okay, now we are kind of coming back as I suspected, right? Like there was another little attempt at pushing it lower, and they're snapping back to the 01. Marketeer tweets U.S. housing bubble talks are overstated. Okay. China has fully vaccinated more than 1 billion people against COVID, over 70% of its entire population. That's good, I suppose. The country or is there a shirt store called Bahamas? Paul Ryan researched narcissistic personality disorder after Trump win. I understand why people might say that Donald Trump is a narcissist, but I really think that he's ADHD. And not all of his actions are in line with the narcissistic personality disorder. So you can see they're able to move across 01 pretty easily because there's not very much standing liquidity there. So we've definitely formed the hole at 01. ADHD, yes, that's it. Fits the profile. I'm actually surprised. Excuse me, I'm still burping a lot and stuff. Anyways, I'm surprised that we haven't seen some story come out about that Donald Trump was ADHD and the close advisors knew and the family knew, and this is how they tried to manage it and so forth. Because he almost certainly is ADHD. Like the way that he talks, almost certainly ADHD. And it's probably the case that for some of the debates where he did really, really well, that he was on Adderall. Probably the case. And that's probably also why he was going on this whole thing about how Biden was on drugs and everything, and like we can be tested and everything, because probably he was taking Adderall on a bunch of them, and he was like, but I don't need the Adderall, I can still debate just fine without it. Statera, probably he's not on Statera. It wouldn't surprise me though if in the past he crushed and sniffed them though. If Trump is ADHD, what is Biden? I think that Biden is just old. Biden is just old. So the way that Biden will like completely lose track of what he's saying, it's not the same as ADHD. Like ADHD is like you're talking and your mind moves faster than you're talking, and so you move into the next subject before you're even done with the first subject, and you will have a tendency to go in and do that when the subject isn't even relevant or pertinent, or doesn't help your delivery of the message or whatever, right? Which is what happens with Donald Trump a lot. Is he's making a point, and if you follow him closely and you're a fan and you know what the point is, then everything that he's saying makes perfect sense, and his little detours are just kind of charming, interesting, additional correlating information sort of stuff. But if you don't agree with what he says, or you're not following him very closely, then it just seems like he's crazy, right? Compare that to Biden. When Biden talks and he loses track of what he's saying, he just straight up loses track of what he's saying and starts to say gibberish. That to me is early signs of dementia. Yeah, early dementia, as Dave says. And Wynn says that Biden has a stutter, so that could also be happening. But then the other thing that I think is really truly indicative here is his temper. There are many situations where somebody will ask him a question. There's a few times when he's done it with constituents. There's a few times that he's done it to reporters, where a reporter asks a very legitimate question and he really flips on them. Like, he just gets really crazy angry, and the staff like has to step in and like take him out of this situation, right? That to me, like, one of the things that happens when you get older is you get like a short fuse, like, angry old man. So I do think that, Biden was probably too old. We should really think about this. I wish that the thing that's so hard is that you have an old guy in there right now. So one party is not going to want to talk about it. And then when it's time that you can talk about it, then you're going to have candidates, and you have a bunch of candidates that are really old. But I really think that it is the case that we have allowed our presidents to get too old. Like, this is something that you should be doing in your late 40s and 50s and not your 70s, because it's mentally taxing job. Okay, Ace is looking for a long, which I think is the correct move. My robot is already along the yes, but he didn't get a good relative spot. He's long like 69. Why are we so geriatric in the leadership department? Well, because the older you are, the longer you've had to accumulate political power and money. And the thing that's that kind of complicates this too is because I don't think that Biden's favorability rating is terrible right now, right? But Donald Trump keeps talking that he is going to run again. So, like, okay. The old management here. He is a grandiose narcissist. No, I still argue it's ADHD. So it's really common for people with ADHD to be misdiagnosed as a narcissist, because you think that he's saying all of those things because of, you know, this narcissistic injury, or however they put it, with narcissism, right? But really what it is that it's a tactic to cover for his ADHD. And it's probably very intentional too. Or at least it started out intentional and it kind of turns into so much of a habit that... Okay, well, that was pretty good. By the way, did you notice, I want to note that when I took the sequential profits, I moved my stop further out. So what does that mean? By taking the sequential ones and taking the profit, I've increased my win rate. Right? Like, they really have to have a really strong move the other way to stop me out. Okay, you got 68.75. I suppose that's not the best, but it was going really fast, so now the robot got stopped out. But how come he didn't take a long... Oh, he was already long.
Says traders, please take a profitable minute to hit the like button. Thanks. You know the why, so I will fill the space with strudel talk. Apple strudel, cherry strudel, cinnamon strudel, traders strudel.
Oh my gosh, that reminds me, I get this oatmeal and it's like still cut instant oats, instant oatmeal, but still cut. And there was an app. I found an apple cinnamon one finally, and it is so good. Oh my gosh. Let's see here. We have years of Trump being in the spotlight. I don't think he's ever shown what y'all are talking about. When he became president, he walked back on a lot of his old convictions. Not sure what you mean by what y'all are talking about. Did he walk back on a lot of his old convictions? I don't know. Something that I noticed about Donald Trump that I really liked, and I wish that we saw in more politicians, is that he was not afraid to completely change course on something. If something wasn't working, they would just completely flip and pretend like he never was the other way. And especially in his, that was probably the strongest part of his campaign, is that every time that his campaign started to falter a little bit, he would go in and make changes, often really big changes, like completely new leadership in the campaign, right? That's a skill I think you only get from business, because politics doesn't reward that very well, Politics doesn't reward that very well. Politics, they all want you to say and do the same thing forever, right? But the real world doesn't work that way. Another thing I'll say about the ADHD is like the place that I go, because I have a doctor that I go to that specializes in ADHD. And on the wall, they have a list of ADHD celebrities to be like, even though you have ADHD doesn't mean you can't be successful. And here's all these people that have ADHD and were successful. And Donald Trump is at the top of that list. So I don't know where they got that from. But somebody that made this thought that Donald Trump was ADHD. And I don't know if that was that he had been diagnosed and before he was president, it was a widely known fact. And then when he ran, they kind of hid it. Or I that's what I kind of suspect. But he says was hoping it would run forever. Well, I mean, we got a pretty good ball back, and for the size that is, or the kind of the degree of movement that you look for, it certainly would be enough to stop it. But I don't think we're done today, not even close. Probably we're going to middle around here a little bit, maybe even test the other side of the open for a bit. But ultimately, I do strongly believe that we will end the week above 4,500. Which means that we're going to have at least 20, 30 points today. Could be wrong. But I'm high conviction on that one. High conviction on that one. Or to put it another way, I've gotten a really strong trade here in the treasuries, and it would be the place where you would you could take profits based on like how far it tends to move. So for me to hold that, I must think that it's going to keep going, right? And I need to have a really strong reason to think that this is the unusual situation where it's going to keep going. Now, for that point, why not add in a little bit here, if we can? Guess they're not going to come get the open. Recognizing adult ADHD, what Donald Trump can teach us about attention deficit hyperactivity disorder by John Cruz. It could be. So here's the other side of this. I think Rubio has it too. But that he's much more heavily medicated. And that's why Rubio always insists on having water everywhere. What's that now, HF? Which he is not to be seen for a long time?
Block cell.
You don't think we'll see Matt for a long time? Oh, day trader paradise Matt. Yes. Has something new happened on that front though? I mean, that was a long time ago. I thought you were talking about trades by Matt, and I was concerned. Trades by Matt seems like an honest guy. I haven't met him, and I'm not. I don't know. I don't want to like bother people. You know, like I could talk to him and have, what would I even say to him? You know, you probably shouldn't do this and this. Everything that you do to trade probably has no edge. No, but he seems like a genuine person and a nice guy. But the day trader paradise guy, I kind of felt like he was not being forthright with people, and he got called out on it. Oh well. Not that day trader paradise is like scum of the earth or anything like that. Just a regular person that I suppose you could say made a mistake. But you know what the big mistake always is, guys? The big mistake is always the ego, you know? It's always the ego. Hey, look, it got filled. Oh, let me make sure I got this thing to make sure I understand where we're at. Okay, good. He says it off the table. I'm really pushing it here, to be honest. See if it works out for me. I don't think I would be doing this trade in the E-mini with my live account. The treasuries still look pretty, geared to move lower. Especially that 5-year is leading the way this time. So we're getting a little bit of flattening now, basically. Yeah, so I tell you, the mistake that you always make is the ego, man. Like, your trading and your success in trading has no bearing on your value or worth as a person, or how good of a person you are, or any of that stuff. And people do trading. So many people get into trading because of that ego. They think if I'm successful at trading, that'll prove that I'm smarter than everybody else. And very many people take that kind of an attitude with it. And a lot of people are attracted to the person that gets on social media and says those sorts of things. But the person that does that, they're always going to be humbled for it. They're always going to get humbled for it. There was this thread the other day where somebody was complaining that they were explaining this trading to their friends or whatever, and they couldn't understand that it wasn't gambling. And I was like, well, why does that bother you, right? Why does that bother you? What they think about you as a trader. It's because you think that your success as a trader means that you are a valuable member of society, and it's distraughting, or what's the correct word to use here, you know? It causes emotional distress when you don't get the societal recognition you feel that you deserve, right? But what happens if in 5 years you've lost it all, and then guess what? It was gambling. I mean... Yeah, the one who knows don't speak, the one who don't know talks to convince. There seems to be a way that you go about it, right? Like the thing should always be that the people that really know what they're talking about are going to use empirical evidence to convince you, because they know they've been through especially if it's somebody that is a professional. You can't just go, to a desk job and say, well, I feel like the S&P 500 should be up today. You're going to be like, what evidence do you have? How do you prove that to people in a professional capacity, right? Well, so today we can say we have these gamma levels. There's a pretty significant gamma level above us at 4,500. Okay, I guess we stopped out here. So given the current situation, there's should be a pretty good chance, by the way, we'll do it again if it comes back there, should be a pretty good chance that we should move up. And if we should move up, then the target should be 4,500. Never tell people what I do because I notice people look at you funny. Of course, it's me talking about that is something that, you know, is going to spur some conversation, because we've all had that experience, right? And my wife, she doesn't really care to hear about it. They think it's immoral. Some people do think that trading is immoral. That's true. Okay, this is going to try to short here. I'm going to wait and let it try and come back. You're supposed to put the little dollar sign in front of it, Ace. So I just say I work as a researcher for a firm. Well, there's two sides of it, right? There's one group of people that tend to be Democrats that think that trading activity is just leeching off of the system and doesn't actually provide any value, which is absolutely false, right? Somebody has to take on the risk and provide liquidity. So what you are doing is providing a valuable service that is necessary for the market to function. You really make 5 points. Oh yeah, it's 63. Yeah, that was, well, I think there's going to be a lot of volatility. Let's just be careful about assuming that that means that we're going to move down all day now. Could happen. I'd be really surprised if this today ends up being a down day, honestly. But who knows? Anyways, there's some people that think that it's not a valuable activity. But then there's other people that they think that it's not possible to beat the market, which, you know, like most people don't. So it's not an unfair thing to believe, but that doesn't mean that it's not a worthwhile pursuit. Or rather, that 95% of day traders fell doesn't mean that it's not a worthwhile pursuit. Kind of depends on how you do it. If you're coming in and you're blowing thousands of dollars every day and it's like a huge drag on your life, and you would be so much more successful and you'd be a millionaire if you just put it all into an S&P 500 fund and say, then yeah, you're a degenerate gambler, right? But if you're risking small amounts and sometimes you win and sometimes you lose, and you're learning, you're getting better trader and you're understanding the market better, then it's a worthwhile pursuit. Do you think a lot of retail traders lose money because they take way too much risk? No, I think that retail traders lose money on average because that's the way that the statistics are set up. So I think there's two sides. I've drawn this before, but I love to talk about it, so let's do it. You would think that the distribution of retail traders, in terms of if every retail trader came in and took one trade, you'd think that the distribution would be like this. A Gaussian distribution centered around 0. This is not the case. Let me draw it different. Let's do a couple of them like this. Gaussian distribution centered around 0. Okay, this is not the case because of the spread, which means that if this is 0, the distribution is actually more like this. Whoops, with most people losing. Right? But then you also have to factor in that there are multiple trades, and that just kind of, extends the kurtosis of the distribution. So then it ends up being like this. Okay. And from what I can see, this area right here should be about 70%. Okay. But we know that the win rate of retail day traders is 95% lose. So there is still a 15% of people, 25% of people that theoretically should be able to be profitable, but are not. Why? And I think that there's a couple of factors that come into here. One is that the playing field is simply not fair. You are trading against people that have way more information and resources than you do. So you're just kind of start at a disadvantage, is one side of it. The second side of it is that the majority of retail traders are just given bad information. You know, we have a big focus on price when the inelastic theory of markets suggests that the specific price doesn't really matter and that we should be more concerned about how much money just needs to be invested into the system at any given time, right? And that accounts for that amount. And that's why I believe that the majority of day traders fail. But, you know, even if you solved all of those problems, the way that trading is set up, the majority of retail traders are still going to lose because of the spread, assuming that they can't provide liquidity, right? If it was on the floor, if we're on the floor, then you could get to where, you know, theoretically 50% of traders could win. But again, it's going to be this thing where, like, you know, some people have an advantage, right? So, because even on the floor, most day traders lost, right? So that's why. That's why. And it is important for us to bring that up and to discuss it, because a lot of people think that, oh, the only reason why that statistic is so high is because most people give up so quickly. And if you stick with it, then you'll get good at it, and then you won't be part of that majority that fell. That is not the case. Even if you get to the people that survive for like 4 years or so, there's only a very, very small, only like 30% of those become profitable. So yeah, you have to have a strategy that actually works. Okay, so E-mini's still looking a little bearish at the moment. You know what? I should come in and I should look at the flows. Okay, so the cumulative delta is down, but only mildly. So that's not very strong. You know, I'm kind of looking here now, like, I'm really sure that we should trade the day up. So now I'm looking for contradictory evidence because it's not going up right now, right? We should follow one strategy and see how long it works. Well, again, this is why I say, like, people need to understand the fallacy in X person was successful doing this thing, therefore it's a good strategy that I should use. That's not the case, because the chances of that it is more likely that that person is just lucky than it is that they have something that actually works. Even for that small amount of people that are actually have long-term success, it's more likely that they were lucky than it is that they really know what they're doing. So really, to sit down and say this is good information that you should trade off of or base a strategy off of, you should have empirical evidence to suggest it. So just note that even though, okay, so there's a little bit of a turn. I'm going to try it right there. Even though we are moving down in the ES, we are not seeing other instruments such as gold, the dollar, moving down. Now, oil is moving down. Oil is moving down. Copper is moving down. But and this 6J is maybe bouncing just a little bit. But so I'm not seeing like risk off sentiment come into the market heavily. The market will adapt to flush it out. Yeah. Well, if it's a technical advantage, then yeah. But just remember, there will always be inefficiency. It's just that the inefficiency that tends to exist in markets tends to be informational and not technical. Isn't $1 million in your pocket? And no, that's anecdotal. So here's why I would say that it's anecdotal, is like, you don't know how they made that money, right? They might have made that money by taking like really irresponsible, stupid risks, right? And from being like really lucky. And you have no way of verifying that they actually traded the way that they say they are, or that the edge originates from what they think it originates from, right? That's why to have empirical evidence for you to really investigate, you have to, you would basically have to have an automated strategy that you can run against the data yourself. Then you can really do the investigation to say, okay, like, how does it fare against a different data set? Where is the edge really appear to be coming from, where they, like, you can actually do that investigation. Whereas when they just say, well, I made money, it's like, all you can do is take their word for it that they made money and you'll make money too. And there's no real empirical research that you can do from that. Well, I know I'm not going to entrust an investment with somebody who's never made $1 million. Yeah. But again, that's where I say, like, you should really look at the empirical evidence to make a decision, right? Past performance isn't indicative of future results, right? Most no money down real estate gurus borrowed money from their parents. Yeah, you get what I'm saying, right? It is a logical fallacy. Trade guru rooms, it's simple. If they don't show platform live trading, they're fake. Well, probably a lot of people do still do sim trading though. It just okay, so are we getting some news here? What is the news that we're supposed to get here in a second? Oh, business inventories month over month. That's not something that tends to be a very big deal, but let's see. Well, the E-mini has had some okay moves here, but they still seem to be struggling a bit. Oof, come on, just barely, not enough there. Sometimes I wonder how Ace's stats would change if he changed his take profit from 8 ticks to 7 ticks. Because it seems like so often that they'll just barely kiss it and not fill. At least that's a record of wins and losses. Yes, if they actually show you their trade results. I mean, getting their actual trade history it would be valuable, right? It is valuable because at the very least, you could say, would this actually be appropriate to me? Because, you know, the amount of money that you make at the end is not the only thing that matters, right? What your maximum drawdown matters, what, you know, all of these other properties. What's the Sharpe ratio of it? How consistent is it? You know, could be the case that all of their money was made on one trade. Well, they're still being a little bearish here. Although I would say that the volume overall looks mixed. $44.50. I swear, they must be going down simply because I said that we're going to be 44, whatever it was I said. 4,500. That's the only reason. Caleb says ES is looking to turn.
Says Seth, you're suggesting I go for 7 ticks instead of 8? To be more profitable?
I'm not suggesting that it would make you more or less profitable. I would just be interested to see what it would change. Because it seems to me that when I'm looking for 2 points, that it very frequently will give me seven ticks of excursion and then come back. Okay, well, I think what I want to do here is manage this and try and build the position lower again. Yep, too late.
Says thinking about that. I do know on choppy days I will switch it up to 5 ticks.
5, really? There's my stop. On those E-mini trades, I feel like I've done some okay stuff. Like I've gotten some really good favorable excursion on them and everything, but ultimately they're just the wrong way, right? Okay. We could see a reversal in the reversal time period from 8:15 to 8:45. Would probably be the next spot I'd be looking for. I'm thinking about it right now, and I'll see like little things, but what I'm seeing in the DOM that's giving me a favorable excursion on this is clearly not enough to give me an edge on when it's going to reverse. This pullback in the treasuries, by the way, well, normally I would be like, yes, this is where I wanted to add, but not if the E-mini is going down like it is. Place my orders where I want to get hit. Yeah. Their DOM and NinjaTrader 8 is really just not very good. It's really just not very good. Jigsaw is to a place where Ace could just use Jigsaw now. But I thought that you had a custom suite of indicators that you were using and stuff. Are you still doing that? That whole gig, or did you stop doing that? I seem to recall you saying that you stopped doing that. But then the issue would be like if you spend $1,000 on NinjaTrader, it doesn't make sense to spend another $500 on Jigsaw. Yeah, Jigsaw is the down thing that I use. But they have charts too. I don't show them. Here, I'll show you. Chart. They're still working on, oh, that's right. I can't do it. You can't do it through the, you can't do it through the bridge, so I can't show you. But they do have charts. They're still fairly new, but it would get the job that you need done. So I think that the treasuries here still look like they're moving mostly on the currency correlation. Oh, you still consult for them. It's very infrequently, but I milk them for all I can get. Okay. I don't know, man. Everything looks like a turn to me. Like, okay, I'm going to try this a little bit differently. The marketeer asks, does a bearish bounce exist? None of that Dawn that Seth uses attracts you. No, I wouldn't. I could see why it wouldn't be all that. I don't know. I really think that. Well, so I guess I should try and convince him, right? Orders are what moves markets, and the DOM gives you the most complete view of what is actually going on, and that's why it's valuable. And it's also the best way to execute. Okay, that's looking a little better. I agree that order flow is how the market moves. I just don't care. You know, More than the other side is it's a better execution. You do one click and you're in. I don't know if that would make sense because then you have to pay $50 for it. Maybe for you it just doesn't make sense to use it. I don't know. Now there's a couple of features that Jigsaw could add that I think would make it worth it. Like if they would, if they had, you could get an indicator value and it would dynamically change on the alert column, then it would make it worth it for him. Yeah, we're gonna. Oops. Okay. Look at overflow. I have access to an elaborate order flow indicator. In the end, I still have to make a decision to get in which direction, and order flow doesn't make it easier. But ultimately, I do think that the way to really make money trading is to make a prediction about future order flow. So watching the order flow doesn't usually, it's pulling something outside of that allows you to do that. But seeing the order flow can help you see what the current conditions are and help you verify that what you want to see is happening or not. Steady order flow seems more chaotic. Now, I don't know about that one. Every study that I've done on indicators with my indicators, I have a much easier time getting a strategy to be profitable than compared to just price. I am really truly convinced that price patterns are just not useful. Okay. See, the thing for you is that, like, not everybody likes to be on NinjaTrader because you have to be on the NinjaTrader brokerage and it's a pretty heavy platform and things like that. So a lot of people like to get off of it. So then you can go to Sierra Charts or you can go to Jigsaw. And I think that things are starting to turn towards where you'd rather be on Jigsaw. Of course, they still have some room to go on their charts, but I certainly would pick Jigsaw over Sierra Charts. But for you, if you were primarily using the charts and you're not going to pay $50 a month for execution, which is what you have to do with Jigsaw, then it probably doesn't make much sense, does it? I'm on NinjaTrader just for C#. That's probably the main reason that I'm on it too. But they're really what makes NinjaTrader the best platform is the community, all of the custom indicators and stuff. What's the programming? Well, the Jigsaw doesn't allow you to extend it at all, and I don't think that will ever will allow you to. Yeah. Caleb says, what? Question mark, exclamation. Because their audience is not algorithmic trading. Their audience is discretionary trading on a DOM. So I don't think you'll ever see it. Well, shoot. Another little leg lower there. I do say the range of some of these 5-minute candles is getting pretty crazy. I am finally starting to see the treasuries react to the risk-off sentiment.
Ace Trade says if I get 20 GD points on a throwaway trade, one any yokel could have taken, I am going to be pissed.
It's pretty... The thing that I'm surprised about on the trade that you took was the point at which you took it. It was a spot where I would have been really hesitant, because it's like, okay, like it's already moved down quite a bit and we don't really have any reason to think that it's going to extend down further. In fact, I'm still quite bullish, you know? And then for it to have gone as much as it did, yeah, is very quite surprising. There's the kind of this whole thing though, like, are we going to end the week at 4,400 or 4,500? And right now it looks like they're heading for 4,400, but I'm still quite a bit skeptical about how far down they can go. Especially when all of the economic news that we got was good. But one thing we could factor in is that they just don't like the higher rates. That could be. And yeah. But the split side of that is that right now it seems like all of these markets have a decent amount of volatility in them, whether it's up or down, and so you can catch these trades and just let them ride. So Forex Live tweets, the US dollar buying continues, but treasury yield stalls. More than half a dozen suits inciting NFTs have been filed in federal courts alone since the start of 2020, including one over the potential sale of the copyright to Jay-Z's debut album. Alligators as a vicious cycle to treasury's equities, yeah. Okay, here's this price level we've been watching. Who was calling a turnaround at 4444? No. It was 4443 was a price that AO had mentioned a while ago, and that we had something at, and it actually did end up being like a level that the market toyed around with a lot. I don't necessarily think that it has any potential edge. I'm just trying to find good place to try and build up a long position on a reversal, but it looks like the possibilities on the reversal are just getting less and less, aren't they? And by the way, Jay has yet to try and take a long off of all of this.
Winston's mum says ARF. I hear playful puppy sounds? Or is that toddler Asher? Lol.
That's toddler Asher. I have to admit, I've been getting a little bit concerned for the kid lately, because like he can definitely hear us, but it takes a lot to get him to respond. Like you have to, you say his name, it takes a lot to get him to respond to his name for some reason. Well, Ace decided to get out. That's unusual for him. Maybe you gave him the wrong name. I told you Blade was better. No. I don't know. Like I'm sitting here thinking, like, is my child a little autistic? Or maybe it's an ADHD thing? Because responding to your name is something that, like, at 9 months old, most kids do. So I don't know. I can literally stand behind him and like scream at the top of my lungs, and he won't stop doing whatever it is he's doing. He'll just completely ignore me. And maybe he hates you. Are you concerned? Well, some of the behavior would make you think, can he even hear us? But I test him, and I'm pretty sure that he can hear us. It seems like he can hear us. He just chooses to ignore us. Does he have any empirical evidence yet that his name is Asher? Yes, I have a birth certificate and a social security card with his name on it. And video evidence of him being born. That's anecdotal. No, that's a birth certificate is not anecdotal evidence. The anecdotal versus empirical thing doesn't necessarily really apply to a situation like this, right? Because we're only talking, like, it's the one instance is that child's name Asher, right? Versus the kind of statements that we're trying to make with trading have to do with tendencies among a wide variety of data points. Like children in Utah tend to be named Asher would be something different, right? And to support that conclusion, we would have to go and see like how many kids in Utah are named Asher compared to other states, and right? I know you're just joking, but the more that we can understand about the scientific method as it applies to trading, the better off we're going to be, right? You've told him his name is Asher, but how does he know you're his father? I don't know how he knows, but he's definitely called me Dada before. That's what's perplexing about it to me, is that, like, he can hear. He knows. I'm pretty sure that he knows what his name is. I'm pretty sure he knows that I'm Dada and my wife is Mama and all that. But it's just most of the time, if you try and get his attention, he will ignore you. And I don't know if that's autism or what. But apparently it's enough that we should probably, we need to take him to a physician. I'm going to be really happy if this averaging in thing works out here, because I was getting a little nervous there. A lot nervous on a sim trade. Even the sim trades make me nervous, man. He is good. Yes, take him. Yeah, well, and the other thing is, I don't know if it could be that he's I think that there's probably very likely that he is ADHD just because I am. And so could that be an indication of ADHD? I don't know. Like he's getting hyper focused on something and so he doesn't hear. What is it? I don't know. I don't know what they do. All I know is that the internet says that, that's something that you should take your child to a physician for, because if they do have autism or whatever, you want to get into the support networks and start dealing with it as early as possible. Asher has already made the top 100 list in states that score highest on the happy meter. Utah, Montana, South Dakota, Minnesota, Vermont, Alaska, and Hawaii. Copied from... Oh, really? There you go, Win. Good research there. Forex Live says aggressive selling in U.S. equities right after the open in 5 of the last 6 days. What's your best theory on why? I don't know. You know what though? I don't know, but the volume has been different today. I'm going to say that to him. In Norse mythology, what did I just say? Anyways, the first man was created by the gods. It was formed from an ash tree. The Celts, impressed with its massive size, associated the ash tree with power, expansion, and skill. Oh, well, there you go. Okay, block sell at 133.02 half. Really? How big was that? 3K. Okay. Curious. It held, by the way. O2 half did not go offer. I would have to think that that's the market maker. Well, maybe there is just somebody with a really big iceberg there, but like the market maker didn't pull either. I'm kind of wondering why the market maker feels confident in holding that price. Must be because you need to see a turn in the 6J. And they're still hitting it and it's still absorbing. Like the 5-year is eating into it. I haven't seen any trading in the 5-year. That's weird. Only in the 10 and the 30, and even in the 30, it's not that much. When I was taking my spread trade, there was plenty of activity in the 30. I don't know. Okay, well, they're willing to absorb at least a little bit on both sides here, but man, there's like a 10K or a 15K hiding there at O2 half. This Forex live thread is getting lots of replies. Let's see what they say, because I really am not quite sure what the timing of the selling is all about. Kaplan needs the market open to sell out. Corporate and capital gains tax rises. Repositioning for rising yields. That could be, but some sort of distribution triggering some secondary algo responses. Quad riching, repositioning FOMC. It's like I want to know why those participants that are selling though, why do they choose right off of the open? That's what I would really like to know. Gail Emerick says it's not the Americans that are selling. I think that is probably a good point. I think that what may be happening is the Europeans are Europeans and Chinese maybe are dumping, and that's why it seems like after 9 o'clock it's nothing but up in the ES. AO says one thing I don't do is leave trades open in the ES before the market opens. Yeah, only if I have a bunch of profit in it, and I think it's going to trend my way. Cool. They still haven't cleared O2 half, huh? I mean, they must have ticked away from it because it reset. Oh, it was O2 half that there was the big iceberg, huh? Yes, it was O2 half, and we're at O3 now. The 5 years still kind of suggesting that it wants to move down. And the 6J moving down too, by the way. And the E-mini recovering, maybe they will take it more seriously if they get above like 47. Okay, O3 goes offer again. Oof, almost there. Almost there. AO is going long here. How do execution algos effectively execute order? Well, they go and they say, I want to do a market order or a limit order, and they buy. Okay. Gold faces sharpest daily drop in nearly 6 weeks as the dollar and treasury yields edge. Yeah. Now, you know what's a little frustrating on that one is that The Treasury's pulled back quite a decent amount. They gave back about half of the move, but gold didn't come back at all. Gold didn't come back at all. You really just can't win with gold right now, man. So Liam's showing me an image of his trades so far. Looks like he's taken 3 in last 600 on demo, but that's not bad. I always sit down and I'm like, if the market is moving down and you lost money, that's like you're probably in good company, right? It's always harder to trade on the downside unless you got the really early trade. They just don't want to attack that O2 half, do they? Metals traders will also be watching for clues on the timing of eventual rate hikes. Yeah, that the taper thing, it's getting really muddied, right? It seems to me like the Federal Reserve would have every reason to still want to taper, especially if the manufacturing data is showing that things are heating up again. You really don't need to be doing these purchases, and they're going to cause more harm than good. But like the E-mini has just had some really brutal selling over the past week. And it does look like it's the Europeans doing it. I think that's probably the case. This wave of buying here is very strong looking now. So let's see if after 9:30 if something changes. Or reduce the number of trades to 1 and maximize time in the trade? Well, if you want to maximize your time in the trade, then micro treasury futures is the place to be, right? Because you be in a trade for a long time sometimes over there. I just really want to see them smash that O2 half, man. I'm really weirded out that it's held like that. Maybe that means that they're not going to get through it. Actually, I would say that it dramatically increases the probability that they can't get through it, but that's not that. I mean, it's still a pretty random thing. So, yeah, AO is looking to go long again. Well, I think I worked out a pretty good position, and I just want to let it ride. that sim trade over there. I'm break even on my e-mini trades at the moment. So Alligator says rate lock? I don't know.
Winston's mom says what is witching Friday? At speculators at day trading. Winston's mom says also we are close to close for Thursdaying, so do you a title idea for today? At speculators at day trading.
Philly Fed surprises. Yeah? Philly Fed. Philly Fed manufacturing report surprises. That is what it's called, right? Philly Fed Manufacturing Index. I've misspelled surprises. A boring title for a boring stream. No. So you know what's really annoying to me? I do have this checkmark tick that says unlist live replay once stream ends. And yeah, it basically it makes it when I try and create the new one, it thinks that I want it to be unlisted, and it's annoying. Okay. So 2652 went into O2 Sometimes I haven't this unperfect signal that moves in and out of perfection, so I have to put more than one trade unless the price goes ratchet up or does in staircase fashion. Okay. Are you saying that you have this trade that you think works really, really well, but sometimes you're early to it? Because that happens to me a lot. Oh, here's the E-mini selling again. Oh, why won't it read that one out for me? If you haven't hit the like yet, then please do this for the channel and for Speculator Seth and for all of the puppies. And if you like pie, okay. If you don't like pie, then you're not obligated to like the video. But otherwise, if we would really appreciate it if you give the video a like. A little bit of fight there. They will stick around here for another 15 minutes. I'm wondering though, they might kind of try and turn it up a little bit these last 15 minutes. Looking for a sour closing EU big seller. Neutral extreme day. I think you might, like if it's a European fund doing something, that really seems like a very strong possibility, because with these days we continue to have, let's see if we can see it over here. I know it's definitely been happening in the treasuries. Yeah, it's kind of happening in the E-mini too. You'll see that like after 9 o'clock. So here yesterday, it was kind of flattish, and then later in the day, it took off, right? Here, down, 9 o'clock, or a reversal at the very least. But then it continued down lower on these days, right? So it kind of seems to me like some of the bearishness is coming from Europe. Here's 9 o'clock where it was buying and it flipped around. But then you definitely see it. We should definitely see it here in the treasury. Like yesterday, 9 o'clock came along, and then after that, they took a pretty ugly dump. Right? And I think they did it in this day. Yep. After 9, they were moved up, and then after 9 o'clock, they kind of came back. Here was another one where after 9 o'clock, they sold it. See? Like something's going on. It seems like that the Europeans are selling the equities and buying the treasuries, and then after that ends, that flow disappears and everything reverts. Now one thing is that every time I see that, I remember that Jeffrey Gunlock was saying that he's bought European equities for the first time and stuff. So I think that there's still kind of this trade out there where people think that the dollar is going to be weaker. Stop blaming the Europeans, says AO. No, don't worry. You're from the UK. We're not talking about you. The UK, it's a separate thing now. Now that you're not part of the European Union. England isn't Europe anymore. No, so if they think that there's going to be some dollar weakness, and by the way, like think about this debt ceiling thing that's coming up later, right? That's probably going to be a problem too. So I think that it would make sense for some people to want to rotate away from US equities and get more exposure to the European markets. So that might be what's happening. That might explain the timing of it. That, at least that's the best theory that I have. Because beyond that, the degree of selling that we see doesn't seem to make much sense, does it? Nasdaq Trader says, yes, and if the market is about to move down clean, I can stay in one trade, but if it keeps reversing or not make a clean move down, I have to take small trades. Well, that was a dumb idea. You don't like that they left the EU. I was all for it, but that's just because it's not so much that I don't think that there's not like some benefit for them all being in the EU and everything. It's because I think the EU government is crazy. They'll work it out eventually, I'm sure. 10 more minutes. Well, there was a little bit of a move there. If I was going to add, this would be it right here. One spot 338. all the states need to go back to being separate countries, I think. Oh, man. Sometimes I worry about Texas, that Texas does eventually decide to become its own country. Like here's the thing, like from my situation, I don't know if Ace is still there, what he would think about this, but you know, I'm a pretty conservative fellow, but I would not be in favor of leaving the federal government or some of these other fights that some conservatives want to pick. And so if Texas left, I think that Utah would be in a really difficult spot. Like, what if Texas, like, really did succeed? Yeah, they're actively planning. I mean, I don't know if those are that serious, but there are legislators over there, like, trying to make it happen, huh? Yeah. So let's just say that Texas does do it, okay? Do other states go with them? I think that they would. I think Alabama would go with them, like South Carolina, some of those places, right? Okay. Maybe Florida, depending on who was in charge at the time. Maybe Florida would go too. And depending on like the reason why, maybe Florida would go too. Idaho, I think probably yes. Idaho, probably yes. But then you come to Utah, and I think Utah, probably not. Probably not. So here in Utah, we would be in this situation where it'd be like all of our friends left, but we're still in. You know what I mean? Texit. Yep. Flexit. Florida exit. I mean, Texas is the only one that could really reasonably leave. Although I very highly doubt that they would leave and that the federal government would just allow it. But maybe it's different. Maybe the left would just be really happy to have them gone. I don't know. The other thing is that it could cause all sorts of weirdness with like so another thing is like what would happen if like if there was some sort of succession sort of thing and like New Mexico went with them, but Utah or Colorado didn't, the water rights issues over that would be like, that would the water rights issue in the West is like a bomb waiting to explode overall anyways. So more likely for a second American Civil War. I think that like overall they would be okay with them leaving, but then once the like resources start to get involved, then they'd probably have to fight over it. Yeah. Hopefully that doesn't happen. Okay, so a little bit more risk-off sentiment is coming in here. E-Mini's looking at new lows again. I can move that. The big US is too big to keep? No, I don't think that's true. Like, here's the thing is you got to remember that the US is not like based on people or any of that. It's based on a constitution. And that's the unifying factor behind the United States. The reason why we're having issues right now is because some people don't think that the Constitution is being followed, right? But the Constitution is enough. You can have as large of a space as you need as long as everybody continues to believe in the Constitution. The issue is that liberals don't like the Constitution anymore for some reason. All of a sudden in the past 10 years, they've decided that the Constitution is too big of an impediment to what they want to do. They need to get rid of it. At least a certain part of the Democrat Party has done that. Can you explain more risk on things? Well, what I'm doing in ES is like sim trading, so I won't worry too much about it. That's the whole point. If they're going to ignore the Constitution, then why remain? And yeah, like that is, you're right, Dave. Yeah, of course, there's this whole argument about whether they really are following the Constitution or not. I'm not going to get, into that, but I don't think that Texas is going to secede from the union. Like this whole thing about the Biden mandate thing, for the employer mandate, because that's a pretty big deal for some people, right? I don't think they're going to do it. I think that they're just bluster and they're giving cover for some people to try and do that, but that they're not actually. I haven't seen a presidential order signed yet. Anwar Haji says risk on. Well, what we're looking at right now is we're wondering if in the next either at 9 o'clock or 9:30 if the selling abates and it turns back risk on, because we're all I think that everybody in the market, like just reading on Twitter and stuff, I think that everybody is a little bit surprised that the S&P 500 is selling as hard as it is right now. It will succeed. I mean, it doesn't matter to me that you lived there. I really don't think it's going to happen. I really think that you have to have a specific set of political circumstances for it to make sense, for it to really happen. Like, there's like people's emotions and the things that they say, but then when you're a legislator and you're actively talking about doing it and you have to take into all of the considerations about what you have to do, it's a different thing. Okay, so there's a new low. Does look like one of those situations where the liquidity below us is still kind of soft, so that this selling, even though it's not nearly as much as the buying, we move lower. When our power failed, I sold my. Oh, really? So recently, huh? It's just my luck. When I decide to try and hold one, it comes almost all the way back, huh? Nah, they're not gonna do it. They're not gonna do it. You're gonna have here's what's gonna happen. 2022 midterms is going to be an absolute disaster for Democrats. And if Donald Trump doesn't run, the 2024 presidential race will be a disaster for Democrats too. Because Joe Biden is basically like just completely flaunted the Constitution in a number of instances. And I think that is really, really degrading people's trust in the Democrat Party. For instance, there was a poll the other day about the employer mandate. And some of the polling has actually been in favor of the employer mandate. Like something like a really high percentage of people, like 55-60%, were actually favorable towards it. Because it's like, and I think that must be because like people just want the pandemic to be over, right? But then when asked if it was constitutional or legal, the vast majority of people said that it was not. So you see what I mean? Like some of the decisions that he's making is like really eroding people's confidence that the Democrat Party will continue to follow the rules or whatever, however you want to put it. And I think that's really, really going to burn them in the next couple of elections. And the only thing that's stopping the Republican Party from just absolutely decimating them is Democrat and moderates' fears that the Republicans will put somebody crazy in, like Donald Trump again. Right? So if Donald Trump were to stay out, I think that the Republicans will just absolutely trounce them. And then there's all this stuff about Texas leaving and everything. That's not going to happen. Really, the state of Texas is stockpiling cash so they can guarantee everyone's Social Security. Is that really the case? How would they do that? Well, I don't know. It's 9 o'clock now, so we'll see what happens. I'll keep doing this, but I gotta get going. Gotta go to work. So I will see you guys tomorrow. In the meantime, stay